In this episode, we contemplate going back to steam. We take a look at a GN No. 5 switch lamp, as well as count the cars on Ken Zieska's backyard 1-to-1 scale railroad. And we turn back the clock and thank a fellow collector for all the memories. And we cover all this on this episode of the GN in 1970.
70s.
There's something you're not going to see every day on the GN in 1970, a Poacher Italy HO Scale 440 V&T RR steam locomotive.
Boy, it sounds like a ham radio handle.
This is actually a train that my grandpa had purchased when my dad was younger. These are a few AHM passenger cars. Boy, who let the monkeys out? The Barnum & Bailey's special advertising coach. This train here itself is going to take a little spin around the GN in 1970. Might as well see it in action. This is a DC locomotive. I take the Digitrax throttle and set it to 0-0, and away we go!
You just blew my mind.
Yeah, this little bugger doesn't move too bad. It likes to dance. I think that's all for now, but definitely kind of cool to check out. Alright, it's time to test out that old noggin you've been dragging around. In 1909, a 61-mile Mansfield line swung off the switch of the main line at Columbia River and snaked all the way up across Douglas County, Washington to its terminus in Mansfield. So in 1970, the Burlington Northern took over operations of the line. In 1985, it was abandoned, leaving the switch to be unused. Speaking of switches, how well do you know your GN targets? Was it A, the Chevron, B, the Stripe, C, the Argyle, or D, the Dot? We'll find out later in this episode. Here, we're going to take a moment and let you guys see how you light the lamp. Here, we're taking a look at a GN No. 5 yard track switch lamp. I always think it's kind of cool to learn some of the things about the railroad. In this particular case, it's lanterns. This is from railroadonia.org. They get a breakdown of what lanterns look like on the GN and, what they were used for. This particular one, like we said before, is a yard track switch lamp. It's got a couple of reflectors on it, but we'll take a look at those in a moment. Pop this thing open. This is referred to as the fount, or some people call it the pot.
I have to poop.
This is a long-time burner fount used in number 4, 5, and number 9. It's got a glass chimney made by Pyrex, and this here is the top vent. That is where we're going to snake the wires through, but before we get to that, I said we're going to mention the actual reflectors. The yellow reflectors are 5 3/8, the green are 5 inches in diameter, and let's get this electrified and pop the fount out. Well, I try to preserve the originality of the actual lantern. I don't clean these things up too much, but you can see the fount is out, and it's time to get this thing electrified. I used just a basic light fixture. This was left over after I remodeled a basement. I didn't throw them away, and I'm putting it to good use. I went with a Keichler 2.5 watt LED at 2200 Kelvin. Anything cooler just starts to make the green lenses look too blue, because the natural light was, well, warm.
Like a candle.
And I do want to make sure I use a CA10 medium base so it fits into the light bulb socket.
That's winning.
Now that's some prototype track. I'm telling you, who is modeling 1-to-1 scale?
My name's Ken Zieska, and
this is just a few steps from Ken's office. Well, his backyard. We'll take a look as these guys roll by. Let's play Count the Cars.
Coming in hot.
And the grand total is 191.
Mind blown.
Thanks, Ken. All right, did you pontificate long enough about which target the GN used? If you thought to yourself, it might be A, you'd be wrong. That's the Milwaukee Road. It was D, the Circle. As visibility was important to be able to see these targets from a long distance, the target itself was 27.5 inches tall and it weighed approximately 9 pounds. We know in the Minnesota, North Dakota, and all the way out to Washington winters, they needed to be durable to be able to withstand the elements and have high visibility. Do note the fork atop the switch stand on the left-hand side of the photo. That's where the lantern stood. I have an extra piece of wire from our under-cabinet lighting that we had, and I'm just going to modify it to be able to use it in this application. You can see it's got an on-off switch if you want to manually turn it on and off. I'm going to leave that feature in, but we are going to cut the wire first. And we're going to get this thing prepped and ready to be able to hook up to the actual light fixture itself. Now, it's not rocket science, it's just 2 wires, but you want to make sure that you follow the proper protocol.
Step back, son. There's nothing to see here.
I'm running the wire through the vent to be able to make sure that I'm not compromising the actual lantern. And it doesn't matter which side you hook the wire up, just as long as you hook one of them to each terminal without either one touching. Now that we've got both of the leads hooked up, we're going to be getting closer to be able to get this thing fired up. Alright, the bulb is seated, and we're going to be able to set this thing just to kind of get a test fit to see how well it fits. One thing that I did want to make sure is that it doesn't turn and you don't want any of the screws touching the metals, so I end up elevating it by using these 2 L brackets. If you remember down inside, the pot had an area where it sat. This will help prevent the thing from turning at all. So I'm going to mount this to the bottom of the light fixture, and we'll get this thing dropped into place. There we go, we got it all snugly fit.
He said snugly again.
What we're looking at here is just making sure that everything is nice and tidy. With electrical, you don't want to be sloppy.
Holy shnikes, it worked.
There you have it, a fairly simple process to be able to light and illuminate a lantern. As you can see here, the nice porcelain targets are looking nice as always. I can see our wires against the amber lens, but we're going to make that adjustment to make sure that it's not visible. Maybe just turn it against the wall. But this is going to be a nice piece to be able to put into the crew lounge and have a conversation piece for those that might visit that don't quite understand the switch lamp world. You can educate them a little bit about an Adlake No. 5 Great Northern switch lamp. Hope you enjoyed this little segment. I've had people ask in the past, why do you collect hardware or switch lamps? And I think the easy answer to that is that you're preserving the railroad history and you're preserving memories. And for myself, a memory that I had as a kid growing up was always going to Carr's Hobby up in Duluth. I found that this hobby shop was going to be closing, so I thought I'm going to stop by there one last time, and I did so in the fall of last year. And one thing to be said for going into a place like this is it brings back memories. My dad used to ride on the Gopher Badger. There's a collection of keys that I've actually started to collect of my own. You go through the aisles and see the toys and all the other stuff that was there as a kid. You might have even looked past the clock because that wasn't of interest. Or not even look at the lanterns because, well,
I don't even know what those things are. They're above my head. Or the Legos.
Some of the basic things that you look at in life and you carry on and think,
They'll be there forever. I'll see them next time.
there isn't always a next time. This hobby shop was closing and it was coming to the end of times. I remember looking through this rack and I ended up getting a book of a P-38. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I had an uncle that would build ships. Of course, the iconic DM&IR logo. It's funny how memories just get stirred up from seeing an object. Stirred up and taking you back to that time when you were a kid, or maybe just the last time you visited. In this case, Jack's name is on this Great Northern Depot sign. Jack was the owner of Carr's Hobby. He was in the business of selling toys, trains, boats, airplanes, miscellaneous memorabilia, doing what he enjoyed most. Collecting antiques, the business became a unique museum. It had quality items that attracted customers from all over the United States and Canada. For almost 50 years of doing that, doing what he enjoyed most, he sold the building, the inventory, and he retired in early February 2020. As none of us know when our train is going to be leaving the station, I think there's one thing to be said for Jack. He had a train that was going to be heading north. It was going to be heading to the Gunflint Trail, spending time at his cabin and fishing. It was appropriate that he'd actually be leaving this world on opening fishing day here in Minnesota. We'll miss you, Jack.
All aboard!
I want to extend the thank you to those that watch these videos all the way to the end. Do feel free to comment down below, make mention of Jack or any of the other hobby shops or people that have influenced your life from a memorable standpoint. Thanks a lot for tuning into the GN in 1970. You can always feel free to check out other episodes of Sue the Milwaukee Road, the virtual tour of the GN, or additional episodes of the GN in 1970. Thanks a lot for watching.
70s.